I noticed a pretty weird correlation between working long hours and not making a lot of money to working 2, maybe 3 hours a day, and those times being the highest months ever for my businesses. And looking back at it now, I'm spotting that relationship more and more. For example, when I first started my online business, it was an SMMA. I was, for the first like 2 to 3 months, I was grinding, I was putting in the hours, I was cold calling, I was doing outreach, I was scraping leads because I thought like the more hours I put into this, the better my chances will be of seeing success. And for the first couple of months of me putting in the hours, literally waking up, working until night, and then doing the same thing day by day by day by day, I haven't made a single penny. Now, 5 to 6 months into my online business journey of me putting in the hours, grinding literally every single day and making business literally my entire life, I sat back and I started to ask myself, why am I not seeing the success as I see other people, seeing success online? Why am I finding it so hard to make my first dollar, even though I'm putting in so many hours? I'm literally grinding my ass off, trying to see some type of outcome. And this was actually the time when I met my first ever mentor. And I kind of see how they operate, right? And he came into my business. He kind of did some consulting for me, primarily around client acquisition, because obviously to make money, you need clients. And that was the biggest thing I was struggling with. So under his mentorship, when he taught me about like automated cold emails or automated cold outbound, back then I was doing like manual outreach, manual list building, all the manual work that goes into client acquisition. And, I haven't seen success from that. When he taught me automated cold emails, and literally the first month of me launching my first automated high volume cold email campaign, right, I was able to bring on 2 to 3 new SMMA clients, paying me $2,500 a month each. So literally after 5 to 6 months of putting in the hours, not seeing any results, as soon as I was taught automated cold emails by my mentor, in that first month alone, we were able to hit 10K per month. We were doing like 7.5K per month. And then we grew that agency to doing 25, 30K per month through literally automated stuff. So what I want to show or share today is the difference between working smart and working hard. Because I think a lot of people, especially if you're new to business, you come in with an idea that you need to grind, right? Especially the lock-in season is upon us. We're about to head into the winter arc. You might think that you need to start putting in the hours, you need to start grinding a lot to see some type of success. Well, I'm here to disprove that. I think there's a huge difference between, when you work smart and the results you get, to working hard and the results you get from that. So let's jump onto my screen. I'm going to go through, the message I'm trying to get across to you, and hopefully you find some value out of that. So working smart versus working hard. Now, inspiration for this video was from a coaching call I had recently with a student inside Amplify, where he has pretty much automated most of his outbound process, most of his client acquisition. And he asked me, what can I do now to get even more results? Like, I'm willing to put in the long hours to grind to make this happen. I'm willing to work on this thing for the whole day. Now, the answer to success is not always about putting in the hours. Now, obviously at the start, you have to put in the hours, but what matters more is, what you do in those hours rather than, working through the hours itself, if that makes sense. Now, again, it's about taking a couple hours throughout the day and working on your business, right? There's a difference between working on your business and working inside your business. Now, you see with AI, with automation tools, there isn't a need for working hard anymore, right? There's literally zero need to be having to work hard to see the same amount of success as other people, right? Someone can get really successful, make a lot of money for themselves whilst working less hours than you do, right? Whereas you work long hours and you don't see as much success. A good example I like to use for this is, let's say, we have blue collar workers, they go out into the field. Their job is hard. Like, I can never do what they do, right? They go out the whole day. They do, physical labor to make ends meet, to earn their income, right? Whereas someone literally by computer, right, can make the same amount of money as they do after long days of work, right? So again, to make the same amount of income, person A has an online business, they sell something online, right? Whereas person B, who's going out in the field every single day, grinding long hours to earn that same type of income. Now, who worked more, right? Person A or person B? Obviously, person B worked harder. However, person A understood that there's opportunity online to be able to make online income, right? And they took that opportunity and now they're making the same amount of income with half the time of the hours put into being able to get there. Now, I think the term grinding, honestly, in the entrepreneurship space is a psyop created to make it seem difficult to start and scale an online business. Long hours do not always mean better result. So going back to that coaching call I had with that student, he was running a LinkedIn system we teach inside Amplify, and at first he wasn't getting as many calls. And his thought process was, let me put in more hours and I'll get more sales calls, right? They just make sense, right? Put in more hours and you're gonna get more out of it. So let me show you how one perspective shift that we went through on that coaching call got him booking 15 sales calls per week through just one system that we teach inside Amplify. And no, he did not work longer hours. Right, that was not the answer. All right, cool. So the first thing I want to go through is an example, a visual explanation of getting a box up a hill. Now, say today I came to you and I was like, here's a massive, massive heavy box that weighs like 20, 25, 30 kg. I want you to take that box up this hill. I don't care how long it takes you. I don't care how hard it is. Just get this up the hill. That's your task, right? I want you to get from point A to point B today. Now, the first option and the most common option that a lot of people would think about is, let me just use my physical ability, right? My strength to maybe pick up the box and walk up the hill, maybe push the box up the hill somehow. Let me just use my physical abilities, right? Now, this might take you, I don't know, like, let's say it's a massive hill, it's a heavy box, I don't know, like 6 hours to do because you have to take breaks in between, you have to chill out, you have to sit down, whatever. And let's say it takes you like 6 hours to do. Yes, you've achieved the same outcome, right? You got the box to point B, but by the end of it, right, you're burnt out, you're tired, right? You don't want to do it anymore. If tomorrow I said, hey, do it again, you probably won't be motivated to do that again because you've exerted all of your energy into pushing that box up manually or physically, that by the end of it, by the time you reach B or point B, you're tired, right? You don't want to do it anymore. You've drained your energy. Now, say I came up to you, right, new scenario, and I said, again, put this box up a hill, point A to point B. Now, instead of spending 6 hours pushing that box physically, maybe you spend the first, 2 hours building a platform with wheels. Cool. Then you spend 5 minutes, you use your physical labor to put that box onto the platform. And then in maybe like an hour or two, right, you push or maybe you tie a rope here, right? You tie a rope and you pull that box up to point B. And let's say it took you like 4 hours to do, right? Because wheels turn faster. You're more energized because you don't actually have to pick up the box. You don't have to like really push the box up. You're using wheels, right? So you get to point B quicker. Now, this is what I mean by working harder, right? Meaning you might choose to push the box physically or working smarter. You spend the 2 hours here brainstorming, thinking, using your brain to come up with some type of platform with wheels to be able to drag or pull that box up in less amount of time. And by the end of this, say I told you, hey, do it again tomorrow. Right, this is your job now. You are the guy that drags boxes up hills like that. That's your job. You wouldn't mind doing it again tomorrow. You've already have a system. You have a system to get that box up the hill. Right? You are not stressed. You're not worried. You're like, hey, I'll do it again. I don't mind. Because you know you have a system. You already done it. You're not that tired. You're not that burnt out. You haven't exerted as much energy as this guy here. So you can go back tomorrow and do it again. And you can keep doing it. And maybe you will continuously improve this system and make it autonomous, right? You build a machine that does it for you, right? The more times you do it. Going back on the Google Doc. In business, right, you have two options. You either put in the hours or you think. And I think thinking is one of the most powerful things you can do to move the needle forward. Right? A lot of entrepreneurs, a lot of successful people don't actually spend their days by their laptop sitting and typing away. You know, I see people outside in the coffee shop, right, who are evidently successful, and they just sit there, right? Because they can go out there, sit there and brainstorm and think of ways to move the needle forward, right? And then get their systems, you know, it's their systems, their team members to do the execution, to do the hard work, right? So you either put in the hours, put in like, you know, the physical labor, typing on your keyboard, you know, it's not physical labor, but you get the point. Or you think, how can I get the same outcome in the less amount of time without getting tired or burnt out by, you know, getting to my outcome? So how do you actually think, right? Now, let's say, and using an example from, you know, my student, you want sales calls, right? Let's say you're doing some LinkedIn outreach. Let's say right now you're spending 5 hours a day on LinkedIn, you know, making posts, connecting with people, reaching out to people. You spend 5 hours a day doing that. And you're booking out of that, let's say 10 calls. 10 calls a month. I don't know. Cool. Now, obviously, the first thing you think of when you say, I want more calls, let me work 10 hours. Because you think if I put in 10 hours now instead of 5 hours, I'll book the double amount of calls. Yes, that might be true, but there's a better way. So take anything, like let's say your LinkedIn system, and understand the different wheels or the different gears that, you know, turn inside that system, inside, you know, the plank. Let's go back to the plank example. Right? These are the different wheels here that get the box up the hill faster. So now looking at your system, anything in business, you know, with this scenario, we're looking at LinkedIn for client acquisition. You have your profile, you have your message, you have your offer, you have your industry, and you have your hours. Boom. Right? These are the things that will book you sales calls. Right? Now, for most of you, you might think that booking more calls, and this is what my student thought, is I need to put in more hours to be able to book more calls. But then if we break down the system into different moving parts inside that system, right, meaning your inputs, your processes, right, we can quickly understand that, okay, I can get the same outcome. Like let's say I'm putting 5 hours in with message 1, offer 1, industry 1, putting 5 hours in. Cool. Now, instead of putting 5 hours in or adding an extra 5 hours in, I'm getting 10 calls a month through these things. What if I change up my message, right? I work the same 5 hours, but I change up my message. Cool. Do that tomorrow. Work 5 hours, use a different messaging. Now, let's say you're booking 15 calls a month. You haven't increased the amount of hours you're working, right? But you've increased the outcome that you're getting, the output. Cool. Let's say you want to get 30 calls. All right. Well, let me change my message again, and maybe let me test with a new offer. Boom. 25 calls a month. Still working the same amount of hours, right? But getting almost literally the double of output that you were getting before. Okay. Now, how can I get 25 calls? Now you got to think, how can I get 25 calls and work less, right? How can I get 25 calls and work 2 hours? So now we think, okay, how can we reduce our hours? We usually delegate. You can hire VA to take your templates and to do the stuff that you do and cut your hours to like 2 hours or even 0 hours. You can buy software, like automated softwares. You can maybe, get more LinkedIn accounts. Right, get more LinkedIn accounts, put these things there, right? And now you're booking even more calls, right, with 5 hours. But even better, if you get more LinkedIn accounts, you have an automated software and you delegate some stuff to the VA. You can go to the coffee shop. You can spend 6 hours in that coffee shop doing nothing. And you will book 25, 40 calls that month. This is what I mean. It's not about working hard. It's about working smart. For example, with me, right? I don't work hard. I don't sit for hours and hours by my laptop, right? I have a life. I go out. I go to the gym. I have a social life. I go outside. Right? I go to a coffee shop. I sit down at that coffee shop and I don't have to worry about work. Because every single thing that I've built within my businesses, right, I've built by thinking. Right? By thinking, okay, I want 3 clients a month. Cool. 3 clients a month, have 20% close rate. All right. How many calls do I need? Okay, I need, I don't know, 10, 15 calls a month to get 3 clients a month to hit, 15, 20K per month. Okay, cool. How can I get 15 calls? Right now I'm booking 5 calls. What am I doing to book those 5 calls? Can I change anything in those? And so on. And once I get an idea, okay, I can delegate or I can hire someone, or I can buy this software. That's what I'm working on. I'm going to come back to my laptop. I'm going to sit down. I'm going to get that software. I'm going to learn how to use that software. I'm going to put it in test immediately. Right? So again, you have your gears, and then how best to make these gears turn quicker without manual work is through delegating software or, just getting more LinkedIn accounts, for example, getting more email accounts, running more ads, right? For example, with my business, right, I act as a B2B middleman between companies and their prospects. I basically initiate deals between, different B2B products and services. And I work with different industries and, I do consulting, do done for you from time to time. But basically, that's my thing, right? I'm a B2B middleman. So initiating deals, right? That's my job. I need to initiate deals between my clients and their clients. And I need a way to basically connect them too, right? Now, in my head, how can I make the most amount of money possible by being a middleman? Well, A, clients pay me either per connection I make for them, right, per conversation I give to them, or they also give me a rev share. Right? I get a percentage of however many deals they close, right, on a recurring basis. Cool. To make a lot of money, I need two things: appointments for my clients, and maybe get more rev shares. But the primary thing is, obviously first connecting my clients with their prospects. Now, I could go out there and manually outreach to my clients' prospects, spend hours and hours and hours trying to do that, and maybe book 5 to 10 calls a month. Right? But what I did instead is I built up a system, an acquisition system, prospecting system, that when a client comes in, I have a not cookie cutter approach, like a streamlined approach, a printable approach, whatever that term is, principal approach to get them set up with my system and then get the system running. Now, I'm sitting in a coffee shop. My system's doing the hard work. It's fully automated. It's booking calls for my clients. And then my clients are closing deals, right? And they're paying me anywhere from $200 up to $800 per conversation. Plus, I take a revenue share of all deals closed. Now, I'm sitting in the coffee shop, drinking my coffee, not doing any work, minding my own business. My system, booking sales appointments for my clients closing deals, and I'm getting paid. Right? Again, this is business. This is literally what business is, right? It's not about working hard. It's not about long hours. It's about working smart. So instead of in this upcoming winter arc, telling yourself I'm going to put 10 hours a day, burn myself out, and not get an outcome that I want, instead, take a step back, think about the wheels, the gears, the systems, right? And then think about how can I achieve the same outcome without having to put in the hour. Be lazy, right? Be lazy. So yeah, if you guys are interested in, learning more about what I do and, what my job is as a B2B middleman for companies, where I help them close hundreds of thousands of dollars deals, and get a revenue share from it, then click the link somewhere below this video where I basically give you a free training, a free look of how I'm able to do so and operate as a middleman. But if you enjoyed the video today, if it shifted your perspective somehow, make sure to leave a like, comment any questions, and if you liked the video, if you liked me, then leave a subscribe. But apart from that, I'll see you guys on the next one.